Hey guys, welcome to another math lesson. We are still in the Envisions book, chapter 11, lesson 6. So let's go ahead and start off with this video for a little introduction.
You can use a chart to find missing numbers. What do you see? Part of a 100 chart is there. What is this called? It is a row. What is this called? It is a column. A column goes up and down. A row goes across. How can you use the numbers 61 and 63 to find out what number is missing?
Okay, so what number is missing? Let's go ahead and listen to the instructions.
Complete the chart by placing each number in the correct position.
All right, so let's start off with what's at the top here. There's a missing number. We have 61 and then a blank space and then 63. Now we know it has to start with a 6, right? Because if we look in our tens place for this whole row, mostly until the very end, it all starts with a 6. So we know our number has to start with a 6. Now, what about in our ones place? It's not a 1 because we already have 61 here. What would be in our ones place? What comes after 1 but before 3? Then you can also look up and down at the column to see what's in their ones place. You can see a 2 is there. So I believe it's going to be 62, right? Because 61, 62, 63, 64, that sounds correct. Also, in the tens place, we have our 6. And in the ones place, we have our 2. Because we know 2 comes after 1, 2, and then before 3. We also see a blank space right here after the number 76. So what number do you think would come next? We know, based on our whole row, that this number is going to be in the 70s, right? So the tens place will be a 7. Now, what about the ones place? What's that second number going to be? We can look at this one right here and see that that was a 6, and we can figure out what comes right after 6. 7, right? So this would have to be 77. All right, another blank space is right here. Now, do you think this whole row is full of 60s, 70s? What do you think? This whole row is full of 80s, right? Because we have 84 here. So we know it's going to start with an 8. And then let's go ahead and look. We see a 4 is in the ones place here. What comes after 4? 5, right? And we can make sure that's correct because if we look up and down at our column, we see 5 is in the ones place here, here, and here. So we know it has to be here too. So 85. All right, go ahead and try to guess before I do what number is going to go in this space right here. We know it's in the 90s, but both of these are already in the 90s, so we got to figure out which one's correct. So we can count out loud to help us. We can say 91, 92, 94, 95, so we can figure out what's the blank space by counting out loud. Also, we can look at, okay, we're in the 90s. What about what goes in the ones place? Let's look up and down. So we have our 3, 3, 3. So I'm thinking 3 might go in the ones place. You can also look over here and see the number 2 and say, what comes after 2? 3. So I believe this will be 93 because our row is full of 90s and our column is full of the 3s in the ones place, and 93. And just to make sure that this one does belong here, we know it's in the 90s, so that's correct. Now, does the 8 belong in the ones place? Let's look up. Yep, 8 there, 8 there, 8 there. Good. So 98. Very good. We look for patterns to help us fill in this 100s chart.
You can figure out the number in between. What number belongs between 61 and 63? 62 belongs between 61 and 63. What number comes just after 70? 71 comes just after 70. What number comes just before the missing number? 84 comes just before the missing number. What number comes just after the missing number? 86 comes just after the missing number. 85 is missing. You used a 100 chart to find the missing number.
All right, good job, guys. All right, let's do a couple problems by ourselves instead of working with a video. Let's go to our interactive student edition notebook. This is where you should have gone yesterday to do your homework, but this is a whole new lesson, so it's going to look different. All right. So Carlos looks at the chart. He knows 21 comes just after 20. So we see 21 here, and we know that this number, 21, comes just after the number 20. Draw a circle around the numbers that come just after each decade number. How do you know you are correct? What patterns do you see? Okay. So what they want us to do is look at the decade numbers and draw a circle around each number that comes right after those decade numbers. Remember, decade numbers are the tens numbers, right? They all end with 0, so it's all the tens numbers. 10, 20, 30, 40, all those numbers. So we have to draw a circle after the number that comes after each one of these decade numbers. So what number comes right after 10? Say it before I do. What comes right after 10? 11, right? Ooh, that was messy. Let me try again. There we go. All right, now for our next decade number, number 20. What comes right after 20? 21. Good job if you said it before I did. All right, next decade number, number 30. What comes right after 30? Good, 31. Great job if you're saying it right before me. What comes after number 40? 41, right? And what comes after 50? 51. And then our next decade number is 60. What comes after 60? 61. What comes after 70? 71. What comes after 80? 81. And last one, what comes after 90? 91. All right, so what do we notice about this? We know that every single number that comes right after a decade number is first in line for the next row, right? So it jumps down. So it goes from 10 and it jumps all the way down to this next row down. So you go from up here and then it starts over at the next row. That's pretty cool, right? So we always know, like, once you finish one row, you just go down to the next one and you keep counting. Okay, let's go to the next page. Remember what we call this right here that goes up and down? That's called a column. And what's it called when it goes side to side? A row. Very good. All right, so you don't need to write this down right now. But number 1 and 2, it says, have students count forward to find and write the missing numbers. Okay, so I want y'all to count out loud with me, okay? We're gonna find the missing numbers. Pretend that we can't see them. So these 3 right here are missing, so let's count from the number 1 and see what numbers we get, okay? So say it out loud with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and we can actually stop there because we already filled it in. So 7, 8, 9. That's what the numbers that we're missing. For number 2, these numbers are missing, so let's count forward together. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. And we could go all the way to 30, but we can stop there because we filled in all the missing numbers. Very good, guys. So we just counted by ones to figure those out. Remember, you can always figure them out different ways too, like using patterns. Okay, so let's go ahead on your piece of paper. Let's go ahead and put math and then today's date, which is 5-5-20. I'll try not to make you write too many things because you're going to take a short quiz after this on Envisions. But I would like to see all of your writing and stuff sent to me. I guess that's as large as it'll get. So that's your title right there at the top of your page, Math 5-5-20, which means May 5th, 2020. And then we already did 1 and 2. So on your paper, you just have to write the number 3 down. You don't have to do 1 and 2. So write the number 3, and I'll tell you what we decide to put in as our answer, okay? So if you need time to write this up here, you can pause the video because I'm about to go ahead and move on. All right, have students count forward. Then draw a circle around the row that shows the missing set of numbers. Okay, so get ready to write with a pencil the missing numbers, okay? Let's count out loud until we get to these numbers, all right? So don't write the numbers until we get to the missing ones. 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, and we know that 69 comes after 68, so that's a way of checking if we got it right. So just in case, let's make sure we did it right. 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70. Yep, that sounds good. And we can always check, okay, all those are in the 60s. They all start with a 6, just like the other numbers on the row. And if I look up and down, I can see, okay, I got 6 on this set of ones. What's in the ones place here? I put 7. And that looks good because the numbers underneath it in this column all have 7, and these have 8. All right, so the numbers we came up with were 66, 67, 68. Do y'all see that down here? Does it say 66, 76, 86? No, it says 66, 67, 68. 67, 68, 69. No, that's correct. That's a good order, but those are the wrong numbers. That's not the numbers we came up with. The numbers we came up with starts with 66, right? So it's going to be one of these. What comes after 66? 67, good, and then 68. All right, so our correct answer is right here. There it is, 66, 67, 68. That's what we figured out. So on your paper, I want you to write these numbers right here. Make sure there's a finger space between each number so they're not all squished together. So that's what you're going to put for number 3. And you may have already written it because we wrote it together. So that's what you need to put next to number 3, are these numbers here. Let's go ahead and go to 4. All right. So let's see. What do we think goes in this first blank space? Where are we starting off our numbers? It looks like 42 is here. What comes before 42? We know it has to be a 40 number, right? So we put our 4 at the beginning for our 10 spot. What's in our 1 spot? We see a 2 here, 3. So what comes before 2? 1, right? So we know it has to be 41. And if we look at some of our answers, we see that they put 41 too. So we're on the right track here. So let's count out loud to figure out the next ones. 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. 51, right? That comes after our decade number. Ooh, look, guys. It looks like both of these come after decade numbers, right? This one came after the number 40, which we don't see, but it does. This one comes after the number 50. So this, what comes after 60? 41, 51, it has to be 61, doesn't it? All right, so we have our numbers 41, 51, and 61. Do y'all see those numbers down here? I see 41, 42, 43, but I'm looking for 41, 51, and 61. I see that right here. All right, so for number 4, you can pause the video and write these numbers down, 41, 51, and 61. All those numbers come after their decade numbers. Let's go to number 5. Make sure you pause the video if you need more time. All right, number 5. Okay, so let's figure out what is in these blank spaces. 39, what? What comes next? Maybe we need to count out loud to help us with the first one. Count with me. 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. What is it? 40, right? Oh, it's a decade number too. And guess what? Using patterns, we know that if this is a decade number 40, we know that these blank spaces are supposed to be decade numbers. So if we were counting by tens, what comes after 40? 40, 50, and what comes after 50? 60. All right, so we have 3 decade numbers, 40, 50, 60. Do you see those numbers down here? I see both of these start with 40, but this one has 41, 42. We want 40, 50, 60. So that would be this one, right? So for number 5, that's what you want to write down on your paper, 40, 50, 60. And don't forget finger spaces between each number. All right, number 6. Okay, so without counting everything, let's just go ahead and look up here. Let's start with this one. 20 and then 40. What if we're counting by tens, because these are decade numbers, right? There's supposed to be a decade number right here. What would come after 20 and before 40? Let's pretend we're counting by tens. So 10, 20, 30, 40. Oh, we said it, didn't we? 30. And just to make sure we're correct, does 30 come after 29? Let's see. 27, 28, 29, 30. Yeah, that sounds right. So we know our number is going to be 30. And then we got to figure out what 2 numbers come right after 30. So which number comes after 30? Maybe you can count out loud. Let's start with 26. 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, and then what? 32. All right, so our numbers are 30, and then 31, 32. So which of these numbers, these 3 numbers we just came up with, comes first? Which one is the first one we figured out? This one up here, right? Because this is the row before these. So this number's first, 30. So we know our number has to start with 30, and then it has to have 31 and 32 after it. What is after this number right here? 30, 31, 32. Does that match? 30, 31, 32. It does. So we will circle, and actually you will write these 3 numbers right here with finger spaces between each number. 30, 31, 32. And great job if you figured that out before I did. All right, pause your screen if you need to write any of this. We did number 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right, we're gonna do one more. And you might actually do it by yourself, okay? All right, so let's go ahead, look at number 7. You are gonna do number 7 all by yourself, okay? So take a look at 7. You're free to count out loud to figure out these 3 missing numbers here. These right here. And you're supposed to circle, but you don't have to circle. You'll just write in on your piece of paper what numbers are missing. So I think the easiest thing to do is start from 91 and just count until you figure out those 3 numbers and write them on your paper for number 7. So go ahead, try to start counting from 91. So say 91, 92, and make sure you write your numbers on your paper that you came up with. You can even look up at the columns to help you figure out the numbers. You can look at the decade numbers to help you. So figure out which 3 numbers are missing and write them in order with finger spaces, okay? So which of these is correct? You're doing number 7 all by yourself. And just a little hint, you know that it has to be in the 90s, right? The number right here will need to be in the 90s, but not necessarily this number right here because that's a decade number, so it's changing to a different set of numbers. So go ahead and count from 91, fill in the blanks, write it on your piece of paper what numbers are missing, and then take a picture and send it to me. And then on Envisions, you have a small quiz. There's only 5 questions. There's a quiz for you to do on Envisions. So if you need more time, definitely pause your video, but I'm going to write this little note to you and to make sure you do Envisions quiz. This is your homework that goes with it. You need to log on to Clever, click Envisions, and do the quiz that goes with today's work. But go ahead and fill this in by yourself and then pause the video if you need more time. And of course, let me know if you have any questions, but we are done with today's video, and just make sure you do the quiz on Envisions. All right, thank you guys.